I'm Sean with Panasonic. I'm one of the product managers with the Lumix GH series cameras, and we're at CES with the GH5S that we just announced. The GH5S is the new flagship camera for the GH line and the Lumix series products in general. And we've introduced a ton of new technology into this camera, such as like dual native ISO, cinema 4K at 60 frames per second, and increased low light sensitivity by using a 10 megapixel multi-aspect sensor. This allows for super low light performance and just a really awesome platform in the same body, design, and build as the GH5. So the GH5 is really targeting towards a higher production kind of content creator, someone who really demands low light sensitivity in a very familiar package that was created with the GH5. And to that point, the GH5S is not replacing the GH5, mainly because a lot of the technology inside of it, like the dual native ISO. So basically what we've done is we've lowered the resolution to have a 10.2 megapixel chip. So the photo sites are actually larger based on the sensor size that's in here. And by moving to the multi-aspect sensor, we're using the full circle of coverage that the Micro Four Thirds lenses offers to be able to inch out that much more space on this camera for those pixels. So it effectively, those two pieces combined, increase the photo site area, which increases dynamic range, increases low light sensitivity. But by doing this, we had to take the stabilization system out. And what was easy for us to make that decision to remove the stabilizer by comparison to the GH5 is that in certain applications, in higher production, and in even everyday cinematographers and videographers, when you attach a camera with an in-body stabilizer to, say, a car, and you're filming internals, one of the problems is that the camera now becomes part of the car, and any potential inertia that can be transferred that way. Because a magnetic stabilization system is floating freely inside the body and not attached, it's no longer part of that system. So when the car hits a bump, the actual camera moves, but the stabilized sensor actually stays still. So when it moves, the sensor is actually there, just floating, and then recorrects to kind of counteract. And that's a very undesired effect in a pro level area. So as we started to investigate this and look and see where other applications are, we found that even everyday videographers that are filming, say, like parkour or skateboarders that are using handheld gimbals were experiencing some very similar situations, because the impact when you would step or run or ride a bike and go over a bump was causing the camera to shake, based on the fact that it's attached to the gimbal and the person running, and you were getting the same effect. So by doing a lot of the research and listening to the community and working with a lot of high-end and everyday users, we've been able to actually make the decision to remove the stabilization, go with the multi-aspect sensor, which was introduced years ago when the system was announced, but update a lot of the stuff, which means we can come up with a much better sensor design architecture on the backside of it and introduce dual native ISO. So with that really pushing towards the low light, we're able to go in and shoot at much higher ISOs in that 12,800, 25,600 range, and be able to get clean, higher dynamic range footage than you had with previous single native ISO design sensors. And we're unique in that sense because we work with our broadcast cameras, the Vericam and the EVA1, and have taken that technology down into this, where others are using voltage type systems to set up a dual gain system. We're using a true dual native ISO system. So there's two analog converters actually on each pixel. So the low ISO range is 400 ISO. The higher range ISO is 2500. So through all of these things combined, we're able to get super improved low light performance, but also be able to divert better processing power towards things like autofocusing, through the ability to do cinema 4K at 60 frames per second, and just keep it in a package that's the same body, same design as the GH5, offers you all the same capabilities that the GH5 has, minus the stabilization, and just be able to work super high level for that customer. So really, what's the reason to buy the GH5? You know, if you're a higher end production content creator, if you're someone who's filming with handheld gimbals, or you own a gimbal and one of the things you're looking for is low light performance, the GH5S is going to be the camera for you. It is fully designed to work in those environments and really just support content creation.